You may or may not know, but I am Native American. I am Cherokee. And a part of my respect for my Cherokee ancestors is that I have a sense of duty to express my AKASHA energy. Now, when we think of AKASHA, we think of a Sachik record, right? A Sachik record is just simply a giant library, right, that reveals to you your soul's sort of travel through time and space continuum, right? In this physical Earth experience as well as on other planetary systems. Now, the Kasha is basically an expression of an embodiment, right? And for myself, I have a sense of duty to expressing the embodiment of my Native American Cherokee lineage, right? And that's my kasha, right? My kasha is embracing, right, the embodiment of my Cherokee lineage and expressing that through my artistry, through my sort of teaching, through my just overall ritual practice of life, right? And the Akasha also gives you, it grants you knowledge, right? Knowledge. So when I respectfully bow, right, to my Native American ancestors, right, the Cherokees, I am opening myself up. Literally, when I put my crown, right, on my forehead onto the earth, basically I'm opening up my sort of arc line. I'm opening up my mind, basically, to receiving the teachings, the virtues of what is inside my blood, right? So all of us Native Americans, we can go to institutional sort of uh, environment to gain the knowledge, right? But a lot of these sort of, when we think of being educated in Native American culture, which is wonderful, right? Um, but a lot of these sort of the text, right, itself was written a lot of times by, let's be honest, white men, right? History itself regarding Native Americans is written by white men, right? In the whole sort of institution such as university, right? So there are ways in which you can get that sort of information, right? That education, but just be aware that it's coming from a perspective of a patriarchal lineage that is about medieval white men, right? And that is a totally different culture than the Native American. The Native American culture is very different from the medieval white men sort of patriarchal lineage. So just be aware that's kind of sort of the framework to these texts that we educate ourselves from, right, regarding Native American culture and Native American tradition and these kinds of things, right? So, but if you are Native American or really anybody, right, it's very very easy. Um, Through your respect, you can earn the doorway, we'll say, to, or the window, or the window opens to you, or the doorway opens to you for you to literally, you can step into that dimension, right? You can step into that culture, or that the artistry, the spirituality, the divinity of that, for example, the Cherokees. You can do that. That is very possible because our mind is a time-space machine. We don't know how to use it, right? That's why we're not having those experiences, and that's why when we want to experience those things, a lot of times we have to create these sort of, we have to go to, get smoke pot, or ayahuasca, or basically we have to create this, we have to create this sort of state, this mental state, right? We talk about DMT, right? But your pineal gland creates DMT on its own. We just don't know how to actually work the mind machine, right? So we think we need to do these sort of, ayahuasca or weed or other sort of ways of getting our mind into that right sort of hypnotic state where all of a sudden, like, it, it now can open up what we call time-space continuum, right? Where there's these dimensions in your kasha where you can step into them, like stepping into a door, and you can receive that sort of energy of that particular lineage that you're connecting with, or that dimension where that lineage was expressing itself in to the fullest, right? When it was in its prime, right? So for myself, um, for myself, I have taken more of the approach of kind of, my mind, right, my time space machine called my mind, to really connect with this lineage that's inside my blood, right? The stories of it, they are around me. They're in my arc line. It's in my aura. It's just it's very much, it's encoded within my aura, right, through shapes or sounds or dreams. It's kind of like that, where you get these feelings, sensations, visions that are like shapes and patterns, kind of like light language, or think of like hieroglyphics, right? And it all has great significance, great meaning. It's just we don't know how to decipher it, right? Right? Because when we get in a mindset, right, in a mindset, what happens is our mindset cannot, this current mindset cannot fully interpret time space continuum. It cannot fully go into these dimensions, and that mindset most likely is not expanded enough to be able to go into a vibrational vortex of like Native American lineage, right, of the Cherokees, and be able to interpret the culture or the artistry, the divinity of the just the essence, right, of the feeling of those, yeah, of that lineage through a mindset that's very much bound to this sort of, right, this dimension, right? So your mind, right, your time space machine, it, when we expand it through meditation, right, when we expand it through connecting with the Akashic record, basically we're getting crafty at being able to decipher and decode energy, because beyond energy is what really crosses through dimensions, right? It's not a mindset. It's not a sort of a perception. Um, when your energy crosses through a dimension, the perception kind of it catches up to it, right? It kind of, the energy crosses through, and then the perception is kind of the tail that kind of eventually catches up, right? So in energy, when we learn how our energy works and learn how to communicate and how to feel and how to interpret through energy, that's a different sort of, ability than carrying your mindset into trying to understand these sort of cultures or traditions that are part of a dimension that is connected to yours, but it's in its own sort of, it's in its own sort of it has its own barrier, dimensional barrier, right? So just like when I channel, right, about Lumeria or Atlantis or even planets off, right, the other planetary systems, basically I am using my energy, right, to connect with that information, not using a mindset, right, or not using what a mindset that is based off of what is what is possible, what is capable in this particular dimensional reality, right? Because that's very limiting. But energy is very expansive. Energy is like the greatest, it's great imagination. But there's also great sort of geometry to that. So it's not just imagination with no sort of order. There's also geometry to it, right? Just like the energy of the physical body. If you look at your physical body, it's very geometrically sound, right? Right? So it's very imaginative. Every sort of physical body, every human being is very, very imaginative, but it's very ordered. There's order to it. right? It's very geometrically sound, right? But imagination is that sort of thrusting force to what we call this great sort of dynamic life, dynamic sort of creative force that is Earth and creation beyond. So for my Native American lineage, the Cherokees, I respectfully practice my AKASHA energy, because that's a way for me to create that connection, right, with them, and also to, it's almost I'm continuing the lineage, right, the lineage of that. As you know, Native American culture has gone through a lot, and not just, I mean, everywhere. It's a lot. East Coast, West Coast, it's been a lot. So the lineage of itself, right? We like to say that it's dying down, right? When the Europeans came, they basically kind of, dominated everything, right? Every corner that we could think of in Northeast or North America. But that lineage is still there, right? And even though we can be, seem divided, where, we were basically forcefully divided as tribes, right? When we were removed in many ways, and we were separated from our loved ones. Loved ones died. We, lost track of people. A lot of things that really divided us, right? And we still are connected, right, in many ways to our tribe. But again, in many ways we are divided. In many ways, in order to survive, we had to leave, right? And we had to join the European, right? Or we had to intermix with the European just to have a sense of security or sense of safety within our life, right? So again, there's many, many reasons behind sort of the division that happens where our tribe, they're everywhere, right? And a way for us to create that connection, right, to those ancestors, because they can be very, very helpful to us, especially if you live on the soil of North America. They can definitely help you with what it is that you want to do, right, in life. So with me and making that connection, what my Akashic, or my Kasha, right, Kasha, 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 right, that Akasha energy is, through my meditation, right, my mind, my time-space machine, I was able to go to my ancestors, right, to meet them. And they would bring me, they would bring me to even more ancestors, right? In generations of time, I could see these ancestors, and they would give me sort of memories of myself, right? Because I do believe, if you are Native American, I do believe that we do incarnate with our tribe in multiple incarnations, right? I do believe that we kind of stay with our tribe, right? In either that's we incarnate as Native Americans, and we kind of fulfill that sort of experience, and it could be a century, right, or multiple centuries, right? Or it could be we're a tribe, and we're in Germany, right? We're a tribe, and we're living in, we're living in Asia, right? I do believe that we do stay with our tribe, right? Because there's power in having a tribe, and it's more natural for us to be in a tribe than it is for us to just be by ourselves, right? It's actually not very natural for us to be by ourselves. As a this it's not as a it's not natural for us to be by ourselves, right? Just like it's not natural for a bunch of orcas to be kind of forced to be with orcas at SeaWorld, right? It's not natural, right? Because the tribe, there's an order to it. Each tribe, there's an order to it, and the individuals in that tribe, they're basically in that tribe for a reason, right? For a reason. Like we have a soul tribe, and God, or the great sort of generating, organizing, delivering, destroying force gave us this tribe for a reason. Because what they energetically and we energetically sort of have, it supports the sort of universal balance of the scales, right? That's just kind of what it is. Um, so with my kasha, right, kasha energy, the memories that they've shown me in meditation, again, you don't need to go have ayahuasca or smoke weed to have these sort of experiences. The DMT, and all of a sudden you start to, your time space machine starts to work again, right? You don't need to do that. Meditation is definitely more than sufficient to get you that sort of DMT, pineal gland, to get you where you need to go in your mind, so that you can get the teaching, the information in this incarnation, so you can start to experience the goal of the DMT, or your pineal gland going into these other dimensions, is so that you want to become as talented, skillful, and as resourceful in this life as you possibly can, because those other incarnations are not meant to be separate from you. They're actually there because they want to serve you. All the incarnations you've ever had is basically wants to serve you, because in this incarnation, the present now, you need a lot of talent and a lot of skill, and you need a lot of energy, and you need a lot of resources in order to, right, to do what you need to do, right? So that's why we work on that meditation, so we can gain that sort of, download, right? So with myself and receiving these memories of myself from my ancestors, my particular embodiment as a Cherokee that shows up in multiple lifetimes, is that I am, and it's kind of interesting because you'll discover, like, if you do this or not, you'll discover that what you're naturally drawn to in this life, it actually isn't random. Like, if you're naturally drawn to something, to do something, or it's actually, we have a sort of, all of us, right? We have, especially like Native American, because we're really about the earth, right? We're really about getting into the earth and the respect of the earth. But other lineages as well practice this. But we all have what I call an earth, what is the word I want to say? We have an earth identity, right? And that shows up many incarnations in different places. I mean, you could be in Russia, Japan, whatever it is. You have an earth identity that can show up in many different ways, but you have an earth identity. So for example, in these memories of myself, my earth identity is that I tend to work with animals, right? And again, there could be multiple incarnations of that, where I could be building, shelter for the animals. I could be giving birth, right? Helping them give birth, right? Taking care of them overall. So my earth identity, and all sort of, Native Americans have this earth identity. Mine is working with animals, right? Working with animals. That's something that's my identity, right? It's almost like that's who you are, and you do that time and time again. It's almost like an earth identity is something you do to help the earth, right? And for me, it's working with animals. So, and you can see it like horses, and before that, it can other forms of animals, domesticated animals, or just even before that, sort of just observation of animals and the study of animals and the sort of interpretation of animals, right? And the sort of understanding of the animals, right? The contact with the animals. And then also, my earth identity is storytelling. So it's kind of like a performer, in the way that I have memories of myself telling stories to children, all kinds of stories. And these stories are not just like sitting down and reading a book kind of stories. These stories a lot of times they're interactive, and they're also like the stories are through the movement. So it can be like dancing, storytelling. It can be like dancing while chanting, while like playing an instrument. right? It's very, very dynamic. It's not just sitting and what we think of like, telling a story by a bonfire of like a scary ghost type of thing. That's kind of my earth identity, is being very imaginative and having a lot of stories because, again, I understand that currently as it's called a daemon soul. And basically what that means is that I can hear a lot of spirits all the time, constantly. My mind is constantly like receptive to like a big sort of antenna to all the spirits and the everything about the spiritual realm, right? That's a daemon soul where you can like you have access to all of that. Um, um, so in these particular, in this earth identity, that is why I can say I'm able to have this sort of higher imagination of storytelling and performing through like song and dance and chant and the whole sort of playing instrument kind of thing. So when I look at my mother's earth identity, right, because she has um, again, we're part of like a sort of a unit, right? She also has incarnations, right? It's interesting because when I go to those memories, I kind of can see her as well. She also has incarnations within a tribal sort of lineage as well. Um, Native American lineage. It's not in her blood per se, right? Um, uh, but she has it in her sort of her arc line, right? And you can see if people have it in their arc line. They don't have to be, they don't have to look Native American to have it. There's many lineages of tribal living or matriarchal living or these sort of this divinity and spirituality within the people really, really strongly. You can see it in the person. And they don't have to be black or brown or red skin. They can be white, pale white. And you can see that in them, right? So my mother, she is like a doula, right? Like a great doula in this. That's her earth identity. She's a great doula, and she basically gives birth to, not gives birth, but she helps facilitate the arrival of the next generation. And as a doula, she also, again, is like we talk about it's a medicine woman, right? We think of it like a doctor, right? So she also has this sort of we talk almost we think of like green thumb, right? I have this ability to heal the land, right? That's a green thumb. I know the land, right? That's an earth identity. Um, but hers is like a green thumb of like medicine when it comes to helping women, right? Bring in these souls. And having ability to understand these souls and what they need and understand kind of um, what it is that they want to experience within the tribe, right? Even sometimes of memory, you can remember them, have memories of these souls, these young children in an other sort of energy. You can see them like in a satric record, and you can kind of see their energy of where they're coming from and what they kind of want to experience and move through in this life, right? So that's very much her sort of earth identity, right? And also with the great sort of women community, like the womanhood, right? That's her earth. Again, an earth identity is basically something. It's a trait. We all have a trait as a soul, and we have multiple. And as we keep growing and evolving, we get many, right? It's just something that we do time and time and again, that it's just natural for us to be. It's natural for us to, it, to be that, right? Our AKASHA. Our AKASHA is basically that, our trade, right? Our just natural trade that was given to us directly from the earth long time ago, right? That we're really good at, right? And that is really, it's connected to the earth, really. It's connected to the earth. So when we think of, having kids and womanhood and, animals, and we think of a storytelling that's all about sort of the interpretation of the earth and the sort of community with the earth and the sort of respect and the sort of connection to the earth, right? So I encourage you all, right, either if you're Native American or you're not Native American, right, but you're drawn to this video because let's say you have that sort of tribal, Asachic sort of imprint in your aura from lifetimes where you were in this tribe. Again, it could be even, in Russia, right? Okay, it doesn't have to be North America. But the significance of these sort of lifetimes in the tribe is that it, again, earth identity. It gives us an earth identity. And that's why we have incarnations as living in a very tribal, spiritual unit, right? That we don't just spend one, two life. We spend a lot of time with these people, right? In this tribe. Because again, to get your earth identity is something that comes naturally to you, but it's something that you there's levels, right, to it, right? You educate yourself in that. Like, to be a great doula is not something, it takes generations of women teaching you that and gaining the knowledge and the experience of that so you can really know what you're doing, right? So that's why we have the tribe, right? So we can get an earth identity, because with an earth identity, we have we have we have a talent, right? And that talent, again, that talent will stay with us, right? It's like the first thing, like on earth, your earth identity. It gives you a talent, it gives you a trade, and that's what God, or we can say Spirit, gave us, because we need it. We need a talent, we need a trade, because that's what's going to help us, not just in this life, but in many lifetimes. Because when we go through, things that get rough or struggle or challenge, it's usually our talent or trade that helps us, right? Or when things go a little awry on Earth, when it comes to humanity, usually it's the talent and trade that's we're summoned by the Earth to be that, right? To be that. So it's, when we think of our Earth identity, it's basically it's like an oath, and it's like a sacred bond that is created with the earth. And people, when they don't have that sacred bond with the earth, right, things can go really awry, and things can get really sort of confused, and a lot of people, they're like, they're not even on the ground, like their feet are not even on the ground, like they don't even understand what they're doing, right? So when we have that earth identity, when we have that sort of earth bond that's created in this tribe, where we really have a tight bond, we develop a psychic, intuitive awareness. We gain awareness when we're in our tribe, and we need awareness, right? Awareness gives us a self-psychology. Awareness gives us therapy. Awareness gives us healing. Awareness gives us this responsibility to our soul and to our people and to whatever it is that we need to do, right? Having that earth identity, that earth bond, it gives us integrity, right? So when we think of all things, that the spirituality of the lineage, right, the wealth of the lineage, that it's not just Native American. I mean, there's so many of that, right? That didn't go through a lot of attack. Right? We think of Native America, there's a lot of attack around that, a lot of attack. That is still being healed and mended and all that kind of stuff. But when we think of the wealth and the spirituality of these lineages, we're thinking about a higher incarnation of human expression, right? We have the lower incarnations, which is like animalistic human that's out of control, no self-control, no sort of bond with the earth, just mayhem, right? We also have higher incarnations of human expression, which is about the heart and about the mind. We know the heart is about your earth identity, right? Your earth identity, it comes from your heart. And people who are not heartfelt tend to be like real unhappy, unfulfilled, you know, tend to be like, I don't know what's going on with you, dude, but there's something going on that's, right? Or the mind, we gain that sort of, higher incarnation through awareness, right? And that earth name or that earth identity is that pathway to what we call creative destiny, right? Creative destiny. So when we think of kind of this, when we think of tribe, we think of creative destiny, right? When we think of other sort of lineages, right? Like can be like medieval lineages where I kill you so I can be king, so I can be rich, and then I got killed by some other dude because he wanted to be rich, and he wanted his lineage to be the supreme god lineage of all the lineage, right? When we think of that sort of medieval mindset or way of living, it's there's not there there's not a calmness with the earth, or there's not a sense of good fortune with the earth, right? It's like a desperation with the earth. There's scarcity with the earth, and there's many of that scarcity, that poverty, that desperation. Because when we're not in tune with the earth, when we can't kind of sense it and its changes, and we're not in sync with its changes, what happens is we don't have that higher energy to basically make the leap, right? And we know we don't have that higher energy to make the leap, so we become scarce, like, chicken with its head chopped off, like, what's going on, that kind of thing. And you see that even today, and even in, you can say, more sort of primitive or indigenous sort of regions, right, where it is very much like there's no wealth, right? There's no like fruitfulness, right? You can go there and it's just kind of like scarcity, because that earth bond or that earth identity isn't strong. The stronger the earth identity, the stronger the earth bond, the more psychic that lineage becomes. And psychic is not scarcity, oh my god, this happened and we're sitting there, now we're gonna, eat each other, right? Because we didn't know, because we were not in the know, because we were not bonded to the earth as we thought we were, right? So a lot of you call these power tribes. They're power tribes because they're psychic. They're actually psychic, right? They're not just, they're not just connected to the earth through the animals or through the herbs or through their food. They're also connected in other ways through their spirituality, and their spirituality happens to be one that is a technology, like a time-space machine technology, that is very ancient, probably off-planet, that was given to them by a psychic or some sort of storyteller or some sort of, creative sort of, person that set up the tribe to be psychically not just bonded with the earth, but psychically in sync with the earth, right? Very knowledgeable in the know of the earth, right? So I just wanted to share this with you guys. So if you are Native American and you want to kind of, use your mind, your time-space machine to kind of connect with your ancestors, or to go into this dimension, right, of where, your ancestors are, right, and come in contact with memories of yourself. Because again, if you're Native American, most likely you've had incarnations as a Native American, right, in the sort of dimensional experience of the spirituality and the divinity at its prime, most likely, right? Because again, we flock together. That's the thing about we flock together. Um, so so you can use that sort of, your mind to meditate, and you can call in your ancestors of that particular lineage, and you can ask, I would like to come in contact with my Akasha energy, right? The embodiment of myself as a Native American, and be granted my earth identity. Because that's what your Akasha is. It's your earth identity. And your Akasha, again, that great library, I mean, you can spend all day talking about, the many aisles of you, right? And the wealth of you. But overall, it's your earth identity, right? It's kind of like the earth library you go to, right? Um, so yes, I'm going to leave you guys with this. So thank you.